Hello and welcome to all. From the incredible aerial looping of the Airbus A400M to the amazing helicopter rescue at the bottom of the mountain. Without forgetting, of course, the insane vertical landing of a fighter plane with a broken landing gear. Here are the 10 airplane moments you will remember for the rest of your life. Let's get started. To try to get the deal of the century, aircraft manufacturers do not hesitate to perform extremely exciting and daring demonstrations of their planes in order to show their capabilities. In this incredible sequence, you can see a huge Airbus A400M performing a very unlikely air show, especially for an aircraft of its size. This behemoth of the air, which is more than 45 meters long and weighs 80 tons when empty, is not really designed for aerobatics, but rather for military transport, since it can carry up to 37 tons of cargo over 4,500 kilometers. But this skillful commander who flies this plane was given carte blanche by Airbus's military division to show what this plane was capable of in order to impress potential buyers. And as you can see, this experienced pilot did not repeat this instruction and gave himself a lot of fun at the controls of this winged pachyderm. From the start, this daring pilot offers an almost vertical takeoff, performing a formidable thrust of his 4-engine aircraft with powerful propellers. The Airbus A400M reached a dizzying height in just a few hundredths of a second, and once in the sky, the real show was about to begin. The gigantic plane will perform an incredible looping maneuver, worthy of the greatest aerobatic acrobats, although they use small planes specifically designed for this activity. Mounted rescues absolutely require the use of helicopters because only these aircraft are maneuverable enough to operate in such conditions. But of all the rescue operations, here is the most spectacular and unheard of one you will probably ever see. This gendarmerie helicopter came to rescue a group of hikers, one of whom had a serious knee injury. They were stuck at an altitude of 2,200 meters in the Artern Pass in Haute-Savoie and could not risk moving the injured person. The steep terrain did not allow the helicopter to land, so the pilot of the helicopter tried an unusual and, above all, extremely dangerous maneuver. In front of the stunned hikers, this ace pilot literally stuck the nose of his helicopter on the slope of the mountain while hovering. The rotor blades skimmed dangerously close to the snow, but thanks to the pilot's skill, the helicopter is perfectly stabilized. This difficult maneuver, called skid support, is not something anyone can do, and it takes years of piloting to do it properly. The rescuers were able to get out of the helicopter very quickly in order to rescue the victim, which would have been a whole different matter if they had to be hoisted up with a winch and cable. Landing is undoubtedly the most difficult part of flying because it is never easy to land a plane, and even less if the weather conditions are not too favorable. But when there is damage in the mechanics of the plane, the landing may well turn into a crash, and especially if it is a failure in the landing gear. On this video, we can see the incredible challenge that a fighter pilot had to overcome, trying to land his plane with a defective front landing gear. But this is not just any plane, nor any landing strip. As you can see, it is indeed a Harrier, a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which tries to land on an aircraft carrier. The pilot having informed the teams on the ground of his greed, the latter had the idea to place a large stool on the runway in order to serve as a hold for the fighter plane. But it took all the skill and experience of the young pilot to be able to land his plane in the right place, because it would have taken only 1 centimeter for this maneuver to turn into a real disaster. Here is the island of St. Martin in the West Indies, with its white sand beaches, its coconut trees, its turquoise waters, and its international airport. Located on the Caribbean Sea, the Princess Juliana International Airport is world famous for its spectacular landings of large planes less than 3 meters above Maho Beach. Over the years, the airport has become the real attraction of the island, as tourists from all over the world come to St. Martin just to witness the unforgettable spectacle. On the beach, entrepreneurs with business skills have even opened several bars and restaurants in order to offer these airplane lovers a breathtaking view while enjoying the comfort of a table. On their menu, you will find their culinary specialities, but also a detailed map of the day's takeoff and landing times of the planes. Tourists know precisely at what time they will have to watch the sky to see the monster, as nicknamed by the locals, and that everyone is waiting with impatience. The monster is the Boeing 747 of the Dutch company KLM, a gigantic, long-distance plane that literally shakes the air and the ground when it approaches. Its passage just above the heads and umbrellas indeed provides a good dose of adrenaline that these tourists would not miss for anything in the world. But be careful not to hurt yourself, because swimming near such big planes is not without risk, because if the landing doesn't really present any problems, the takeoff can be very dangerous. By activating the gas, the turbojet engines of the airliners will emit a powerful, devastating blast, which can throw an adult man like a common straw. Have you ever wondered how fighter pilots landed without problems on a space as small as an aircraft carrier? Then watch this sequence, which will make you feel as if you were inside the cockpit of a US Navy F-18 Super Hornet. Captured with the GoPro, the breathtaking footage shows us the well-practiced maneuver of landing on a US fleet aircraft carrier by a more than experienced pilot. Placed at a strategic point in the cockpit of the F-18, the camera records the incredible speed of the aircraft and its excellent maneuverability. The pilot gives us the impression of playing a video game as he handles his plane with calmness and precision, holding the joystick as if he was holding a PlayStation or Xbox controller. But don't think it's a flight simulation, because our experienced pilot will land his fighter plane on a real aircraft carrier. He will end up landing the plane with a disconcerting ease on the back of the ship, but he will still have to find a free parking space because the deck is literally packed with people. Imagine that you are quietly sunbathing on a beautiful beach, with the icing on the cake, a beautiful weather, and a good refreshing drink at hand. It's a dream, isn't it? But while you're in the middle of your lazing around, sipping your ice-cold pina colada, a fighter plane literally grazes your head as it passes by. It is certainly not the kind of vehicle that you would expect to see in this little corner of paradise, but it has to be said that it has the merit to blow your mind. This compilation of very low-altitude flights that we have concocted for you is a real explosion of pure adrenaline and strong sensations. Very strong indeed. Admire the phenomenal speed of these expensive little toys, which fly at the speed of sound and cover huge distances in a fraction of a second. These planes are indeed so fast that the human eye cannot even catch them when they pass so close. Helicopters are certainly not the easiest aircraft to fly, as the maneuvering range of these rotorcraft is incredibly wide. Unlike a conventional airplane, a helicopter can hover, fly up and down, but also diagonally or even in reverse. This requires a great deal of control on the part of the pilot and, above all, a good dose of coolness. Because on board a helicopter, the slightest mistake can quickly turn out to be fatal. This sequence, captured in Romania, shows us how difficult piloting a helicopter can be, especially when the pilot has to face a serious damage of his aircraft. During a military parade in Bucharest, this American Black Hawk, which was part of an aerial formation, suddenly lost altitude and started to fly very low just above a road full of cars. Fortunately, the pilot was able to avoid the vehicles and managed to control his plane enough to land without crashing. The risk of a tragic crash could be narrowly avoided thanks to the incredible skills of this ace pilot. Mechanical failures are a pilot's worst fear, especially when they occur in areas considered vital to the aircraft. And nothing can equal in horror for an airplane pilot the loss of his landing gear, because in this case, unfortunately, the crash is almost assured. The following video shows us an emergency landing of a Beechcraft 200, a small American-made business plane whose landing gear did not work. The twin-engine monoplane had no chance to land without crashing, and with the cargo hold full of fuel, you can imagine the fire that would break out. So to avoid this scenario, the experienced pilot had to empty his fuel tanks in mid-air before performing a risky emergency landing maneuver. Slowing down his twin-engine plane as much as possible, the pilot aligned himself with the runway and literally let the plane slide on his fuselage until the force of inertia finally made it stop. Thanks to his skills, this elite pilot was able to save the crew from certain death, so hats off to him. It's not only in Hollywood blockbusters that you can see warplanes slaloming between buildings and skyscrapers. In Australia, for example, this not-so-harmless sight can suddenly happen while you're nonchalantly doing your shopping or on your way to work. This sequence comes from Brisbane, the capital and most populated city of the state of Queensland, Australia. In this one, we can see a huge military plane flying so close to the building, it looks like it's going to hit them head-on. This Boeing C-17 Globemaster of the Australian Air Force did not get lost in the middle of the downtown buildings, and rest assured, its navigation system is working properly. It was actually an aerial stunt in honor of the closing of the iconic River Fire Festival, an annual event held every September in Brisbane. However, this aerial stunt was not really to everyone's taste, as many locals saw it as a stupid risk and a gratuitous endangerment of others. We couldn't close this video about airplanes without telling you about the terrible air disaster in Ramstein. This horrible tragedy took place in 1988 during a big air show at the USAF Ramstein base in West Germany. On that sad Sunday, August 28th, 3 aircraft of the Italian Air Force demonstration team collided in mid-air during their demonstration, crashing to the ground in front of a crowd of about 300,000 people. The Italian pilots were performing one of their most iconic tricks, the famous pierced heart. In this formation, Two groups of planes create a heart shape in front of the audience along the runway, which a plane will then come and pierce like an arrow while flying towards the audience. The accident occurred when the lone jet that was supposed to pierce the heart hit the rest of the formation head-on. The planes crashed into the ground with their fuel tanks full, resulting in a veritable furnace. The toll of this tragic event was very heavy, with 70 dead and 346 seriously injured spectators, not to mention the traumatic shock and the light injuries that numbered in the thousands. And that's it for today. Which of these 10 airplane moments has marked you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if you like this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications. See you soon for new discoveries out of the ordinary.